Coming up next on The Mikey Martin Show.
So 5 years ago, our business was, we thought we were going to have to sell it. I just called off my wedding that was 6 days away. My mom got a stroke. And then right around that time, my sister was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was the mess, emotional mess. You only see the highlight reel of other people's lives, right? And what kept me going was just like the commitments that I'd made to myself. And so for me, I call it alignment and then execution. And then it's the actual implementation, right? I felt a very close connection to God, right? I firmly believe, that God had sent his guardian angels and, people to look after me.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Today we have the awesomest guest. This is Dan OSTLER. He's got several companies. He's an entrepreneur extraordinaire, really great guy, and he is perfect for this podcast. You guys are going to get so much out of this, so hang in tight. Dan, can you introduce yourself? What's your name? What's your mission? What's your brand? Who are you?
Yeah, for sure. So Dan OSTLER, been running businesses for a hot minute, got started doing pest control like a lot of people in Utah. My brother and I, we started a business about 8 years ago. So we have that out in St. Louis. And then we launched a real estate hedge fund last year. So it's been kind of fun learning a lot of different stuff, right? Been in crypto since 2017. This last year did a digital real estate company. And so I'm mentoring 2 guys on that. And then I'm getting ready to launch 8 dirty docos. So it's kind of like a crumble cookie, but we're going to be launching 8 of those. And then I've had tons of fails, man. Like last year I had a business that failed, learned a lot from it. We were working on Stairway to Heaven in the past to legalize that out in Hawaii. Straight failed on that, So, I mean, to be real, I love talking more about my fails than my successes because that's where I've learned the most. Like I've had some great success for sure. Totally. And, God's been so kind to me, but to be real, we learn more from our fails. So
guys, you can already see why this is going to be the best podcast because this is real. Like this is the good stuff. This is, hey, I'm not perfect, but I've come really far. Let me tell you what's up. So Dan, I mean, let's get started. I want to kind of know, for you, I mean, you have a million things you're working on. You're always putting out fires everywhere. You're getting stressed here and there. What do you do for recovery? And more specifically, like, how do you do your recovery?
Cool. So great question. Honestly, I've been thinking about this for quite a while. So about 7-8 months ago, I hit burnout. Like I hit my burnout and I had been doing really good. We've been running our pest for 8 years, all these different things as well. It's like, obviously I was able to be pretty consistent, right? But I've hit a lot of burnouts where I just would reach my point and I'm just like dead, right? And what kept me going was just like the commitments that I'd made to myself. But really when I think about it, I have some notes. I'm going to pull them up because I write this stuff down, constantly, like what's going on. So right now it's June, right? So last August, September, I was working like 80 to 100 hours each week. We were really growing our pest business. We're going to open up a few new locations. We're branching out up into, I can't even think, down into Florida and up into Green Bay, up by Michigan, up around there. And I'm just going like crazy, right? Going to all these different masterminds, flying down to Texas, doing this stuff, flying up there, training, working with guys. And then kind of the point that really got me, honestly, so my sister was diagnosed with terminal cancer about 5 years ago, okay? Whoa. And she let us know back last August, hey guys, the chemo is not working anymore, and she had terminal cancer. The fact that she survived 5 years was a miracle. And she's like, hey, I've only got a few months left, right? And I'm still just working as hard as possible. I fly up and see her. But that's kind of, I'd reached kind of my burnout. And I just focused a lot more on some other things, right? And I always had her as like a priority and forefront. But she passed away in November, right? And that's kind of where I had some of a breaking point. Where I really reassessed everything. And so for me, I call it alignment and then execution for me, right? And this last year, I hit some really, really cool financial goals as far as businesses go, money that I was able to bring in, stuff that I thought would have taken a little bit longer to hit, and we hit them, but I wasn't happy. Just be as real as I can. I was not happy. I'd been in this relationship, awesome girl. Ironically, we broke up the day before my sister passed. Okay, so that kind of sucked. It needed to happen, just out of respect to her, and she's an amazing girl. Like, is nothing on her. It was stuff that I needed to really address and take care of. And so from that point, I just took the next month, then it led to 2 months, 3 months, really assessing. And after about a month, I kind of broke some stuff down. And so what I do is I reassess. One, I hate New Year's goals, right? Everyone does their New Year's goals, and they look at it and they're like, what am I going to do this year? And I just reassess as often as possible. But I do reassess once a year. I kind of break down. I even have a circle up here on the whiteboard where I break down everything you can see: relationship, physical, financial, business, lifestyle, mental, spiritual, and family, right? And so I have different questions. I got this book. It's called Living Your Best Year. Honestly, so it's Darren Hardy that did it. But to be real, he took it from like 100 other people. It's not a new concept. I just like his book. It's called Living Your Best Year, right? And what I've kind of coined my stuff as is life by design, right? Living life with intention. And so kind of my purpose and drive in life, when you're asking like, hey, what is your mission? So I call it my why. And I really think that this is so important to prevent burnout, is we have to understand our whys, right? We need to know our why in life, and then be true to your why and focus on connection, right? Which means we've got to be balanced. And so my overarching why in life is to discover truth, because truth sets you free, to live life with intention and authenticity, and empower others to do the same. And so that's
pretty compact. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Really good. Just, that's a lot. That's awesome. It's really, it's covering all the most important things. That's sweet.
Yeah. So my first part, to live, to discover truth because truth sets you free, that's like my main thing, right? But I learned that as I'm discovering truth, I also need to be living life with intention in authenticity along the way, right? And if that's what I'm doing, then I should also empower others to do the same. If not, I'm not living true to myself.
Yeah. No, and I don't know a better way to level up than helping other people level up. It just turns out that every time you try and help somebody else get better, you figure out the next step. And it's so cool. So that's crazy. Okay, wait. So you go from being, obviously crazy, super hardworking business guy, and then you have major life changes, relationships gone, your sister passed away. And you're just left with kind of this new start. And that's what kind of projected you into all of this, the authenticity and really living life by design.
So that why I came up with like a year and a half ago, right? I had a previous why, which was always my future family, right? Now I'm not married, I'm 32, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'm doing stuff for my future family that I don't have, right? And I think that your why, I think that family is so important, right? And other aspects of life. But what I found is that my why needs to be, I wake up in the morning, and if you don't have a family, if you don't have this, that you're still driven, right? Because you've got to have a why that drives you, right? And that's really where I focused on, was this alignment and then execution, right? I have a buddy, we were at this mastermind, right? And we talked about this quite a bit, and it's stuff that I had already been looking at, right? I recognized that I was not in alignment with myself. And if you think about it, lots of people will execute like mad, but they're not in alignment with their true selves or alignment with their goals, right? Someone wants to launch a business and like, sweet, let's go 1,000,000 miles an hour. And they execute and they didn't think, right? Now, I'm all about execution. Absolutely, you should execute. But what I learned about myself I did this other business mastermind like 5 years ago, is this guy goes, look, man, you execute like mad, but you sacrifice yourself for the rest of the team. He's like, well, then the team's left without a leader, because and I'm like, yeah, but we accomplished our goal. He's like, no, you're missing the point, right? And so I've had, to be real, each time I've learned so much is because of the mistakes I've made. Like
Right.
I have made every mistake possible, I feel like, and I just keep on going, right? And I love the term for fail, which is first attempt in learning, right? You've got to just continue moving forward, right? Fail forward, fail fast, fail often, everyone kind of talks about.
Right.
And so for me, really what I look at is a couple things, right? So if I'm looking at, okay, how to avoid burnout. So there's a few aspects, and this is stuff that I'm working on, right? I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm perfect at this, right? I do play a lot. All right. It's probably, my brother's my business partner's like, yeah, he plays a lot, but I think you should have scheduled vacations 4 times a year, right? You got to have those 4 times a year, once each quarter. And the reason I think that's so important is it drives you to accomplish as much as you can in Q1, right? You're approaching up on it. You're able to get the stuff done. You have something to look forward to. You're actually more effective working just before, right? Because you get so much done. And then when you come back, if you're like me, I mean, like, okay, cool, I've been playing, now I've got to go and work super hard, right?
And it's
and
so
then
because you have that, you're going on vacation because it's planned. And so you're like, okay, I don't care. Like I need to get ahead on this because I'm taking a week off or whatever, and I'm gone. You can't reach me. Like I've got to get this done. Pushes you.
No, you're spot on. And then you also get that break, right? Which I think is so critical, right? So for me, as I think about it, there's so many aspects of the alignment, but I think to be real, I think the best way to avoid burnout and be consistent comes down to understanding chemicals, right? Which is going to be your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, and your endorphins, right? Everyone talks about this, but to be real, we are made up of chemicals, right? I mean, we have everything within in our bodies. Now, I never took a chemistry class. I did AP physics, AP biology, went straight, with business. I actually graduated high school with my associate's degree, and then I graduated college super fast. And the whole time I'm like, I wish I'd taken chemistry, right? So someone that I love to follow is Jordan Peterson. And he breaks this down. He goes, if you are struggling at anything in life, you need to fix 3 things, right? And the reason I want to address a bunch of these different aspects is because the solution for burnout, I do have one that I think works for everybody, but it's helpful to hear, different things that people do, right? Like the vacations 4 times a year. Maybe someone's like, perfect, that's it. They've got everything else in check, and they're like, okay, I need to do my vacations. Now, other people, right? This is what Jordan Peterson says. He goes, first, fix your sleep, right? Fix your sleep cycle. If your sleep cycle is off, everything else is going to be off. Your circadian rhythm, you name it, like you're going to be off. Figure out your sleep cycle. And everyone has different sleep cycles, right? You have a book called Why We Sleep or something like that.
There's another one here. It changed my life.
Right? It's huge. And sleep is so critical, and it's often overlooked. The next thing is diet. So he says, first, get your sleep in check, then your diet, and then third is exercise, right? Most people are like exercise. I have another buddy. He owns a business, does very well for himself. And he's so funny because we used to live together, right? And he'd be like, no, you need to get better sleep. He's like, and I'm like getting up at 5 a.m. I'd go do hot yoga, I do physical therapy, and I'd work out. So I'm literally like at the gym for 3 hours, recovering from surgeries, you name it. And he's like, dude, you need to get more sleep. And so I like Jordan Peterson's approach because first fix your sleep, then your diet, then exercise, and then that will usually fix just about everything else that you have going on, right? And so that's really how I break it down, right? Now, the next thing, when you look at each of those chemicals, so I have another buddy, I think you actually might know him, Roger Comstock. So Roger,
I texted him yesterday.
Oh, you did? Oh, I'm happy to talk with him for you. Roger
He's awesome.
Salt of the earth person. I know
Totally.
We used to live together. All right. And that's what's cool. With a lot of these people, we live together. And I was there when he launched his first business, when he did Tuple, and I had already had the pest going, and it was so cool to see him in those growth stages. And to be real, I think he's like honestly already passed me on stuff. He just crushes it. He's such a hard worker, so humble, down to earth. And he and I were on the phone just the other day talking about some of this stuff, right? And he calls them his 3Gs, right? You can have him come up and talk about his 3Gs for you. And it's cool because for me, I always looked at it in the chemical aspect, right? For dopamine, you have a deficiency in each of them, right? And on one, you need to have a connection, right? Oxytocin is trust. When it comes to dopamine, that's like motivation, learning. So that's going to be growth, right? Serotonin is feeling important, right? And that's also growth, but it's accomplishing goals, right? Endorphin, that's going to come from different physical stuff, right? Going to the gym and exercising. And so I love his approach. What he talks about is he goes, gratitude, growth, and giving. Okay. And he just launched some like 30-day thing on it, 3Gs in 30 days. Now, my approach, I think you need to add a fourth, and I'll kind of explain my fourth in a second. And this is kind of my own approach. I'd love to see Roger's approach to it as well, but I'd break down gratitude, right? So I think gratitude, you need to have gratitude to yourself, to others, and to God, right? You really need to thank yourself for what you're doing, right? And it's expressing that gratitude. And one thing that I do, I used to do it every single day, and I'm working it back into my habits, is 3 to 5 minutes before I'd go to bed, I just lay in peace and I just list off all the things I'm grateful for. I sit there and go, cool, I'm so grateful for this, I'm grateful for that, grateful for my dog, for my family, for loving parents, for a wonderful business, for a beautiful home, for the opportunity, whatever it may be to grow, right? And then the first thing you do in the morning, most people just launch out of bed. And for me, I'll kind of lay down for a few minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, sometimes just 3 minutes. And I will sit in gratitude. Now, it's really cool because what this does is it completes a loop, right? I learned about this when I read this book on meditation. And it says, hey, before you go to bed, focus on gratitude. Then right when you wake up, focus on gratitude. What that does is it completes the loop in your brain. I don't know all the science behind it. I'm not going to pretend to. But my view is then you are living in abundance, right? You have people that live in scarcity, and everyone that's successful, in my opinion, they live in abundance. Now, if you're going to bed in gratitude, you're going to sleep in abundance. If we are grateful, that's because we have an abundance of blessings, right? And if we wake up with gratitude, then we also have an abundance of blessings, because that's what we're waking up to, right? So that's kind of my little hack, to stay in gratitude. And then I will also express gratitude for things that I don't have.
I love it.
Because then you manifest that into your life, right? Now, the next aspect, the second G, for me is growth, right? And that comes down to mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally for growth, right? For me, when we started the pest control business, got that one going, the hardest thing for me was I didn't feel like I was growing. Like we grew quite a bit the first couple of years, and then we just kind of got into the same pattern. And so I was struggling for growth. And then I started just reading like crazy. I'd knock out 1 to 2 books a week sometimes, right? I started listening to so many more podcasts, you name it. And I just do it on Audible. And I grew so much. But not only did I grow, the business grew, my connections grew, and my financial portfolio exponentiated because of that approach, right? Totally. So that's really how I view it. I mean, we need to be growing physically, spiritually, mentally, all around, right? And if we are not growing, and that's what's cool, you break down each of these things, and there's a chemical connected to every single one of them. People are like, oh, I'm sad, I'm depressed. Well, of course you're going to be sad and depressed. I've been there. I've been sad and depressed. One, like that happens to everybody, but it's because of a chemical imbalance. We have 3 brains. We have a brain in our head, we have a brain in our heart, and we have a brain in our gut. And you got to have that full connection all around, or else you're going to reach burnout, right? Now, the next aspect is giving. Okay, so here's the third one, is giving to others, right? And I view this as, do I provide value? Okay, wherever I go, right? Do I provide value? Do I make connection, right? This last weekend, I was just down in Arizona with some friends, and it was so cool because I ran into a couple buddies I hadn't seen in a bit. One of them, maybe get him on. His name's Chris Huntsman. He sold his business and now he's pretty much retired, kind of figuring out his next stage, but just crushing life, right? Another buddy, I won't say his name out of respect to him, but he just crushes it when it comes to crypto. He got in a super long time ago, super, super humble guy. Another friend, he's done a number of businesses, and it's so cool to see each of them and how everyone interacts, because everybody is focused on providing value regardless of who they are, right? And you would never know. You meet some of these guys, you would never know how well they do, right? We had all these people interacting, and most humble guys you'll ever meet, right? So it comes to providing value regardless of, above, below, whatever, because we all have so much to learn. Now, on top of that, what I think is so fascinating, do you know who John Maxwell is? Have you read any of his books?
I'm trying to think of his books. I've definitely heard of him. My dad talks about him a lot.
Okay, so John Maxwell, I went and I listened to him speak in 2021. It was January. So we went, and this guy is so humble. He's written so many books. And what blew my mind away is someone wanted to know like his net worth, right? Or someone's trying to find out like, what's your goal? Like what drives you? Kind of asking different questions like you do. And his response was so cool, because what he says, he goes, I don't have any goal to earn money. He goes, my goal is to give back more money this year than I gave last year.
Wow.
That's literally how he measures his success, is on how much money he gives back to people.
I think everybody would like to have that.
Right?
As their goal now. They're all hearing it. They're like, that's awesome.
Right? Isn't that cool? I mean, I'll get people to ask me and I'm like, well, my focus, I'm trying to implement that. I'm working on it.
Yeah, of course.
And I think it's just the coolest thing, that's his goal. How much money can I give back? Right. So those are the 3 G's in my approach to them, because it fixes everything when it comes to the chemical imbalance of why we reach burnout, right? We literally reach our burnout because we're unhappy. We're not in balance. We're not in
aligned.
Yeah, we're not in alignment. And that's kind of where I was like, realign and then execute. Now, the 4th one that I call my G, as far as the 4 G's is God. And for me, I think that's so important. You can call this source, call this the universe, the overarching energy, whatever you'd like. Okay. I strongly, firmly believe in God. And so for me, I prefer to call this God. And I think that, I believe that as we incorporate God into our lives, that also gives us that greater sense of, kind of a purpose, right? And it's so cool. You look at it, there's this other book and it's called Beyond Religion. Okay. It's the Dalai Lama. And he takes this approach. He goes, hey, let's look at this in a monotheistic, polytheistic, and atheistic approach. And then let's go beyond this, right? And he talks about what brings people happiness, taking religion out of it. And it's cool because he does talk about religion and how it does benefit and bless so many people's lives. And then he goes to the one step farther. He's like, let's just take this out. And he talks about charitable giving. And he goes, people that give more have more. People that give more earn more. And it's, that's just simple rule, and he taps into so many things there of just a connection with a higher source and pushing past focusing on religion, but a connection with yourself and with God.
How cool. What's up? That's a book?
Yeah, it's called Beyond Religion. Yeah.
Man, we've gotten some good book recommendations on this podcast. And so far we've had a couple really good ones on this one so far. I mean, you guys all got to go look up Jordan Peterson, the Dalai Lama now. And I mean, Maxwell.
Yeah, they've got incredible books. they really do.
Okay, right? Well, here's I mean, I just want to know, because I know that you're still working like crazy. I mean, you're taking your vacations and you're aligning yourself all the time. Does that keep you farther from the edge rather than going over the edge and experiencing burnout? Or
absolutely,
how close do you get to the edge, or do you never get close to the edge because you're so proactive in your quote unquote recovery or realigning?
So right now, I have not reached any close to burnout whatsoever, but I've been doing full realignment, right? I've been doing my life by design, right?
Love
And that's where I look at each of these, right? So I go, okay, cool. If I can break down the chemicals, right? And then the next thing is connection, right? Everything comes from connection, right? Everything that we just talked about, like if I could break it down now to one thing, right? Because I try to do, I like, how can we break this
love
down
it.
to one thing? It's connection. It's connection with yourself and with others,
Hmm.
and with God, and with nature, and with life. What is my connection? Am I connecting? If I'm someone that is burned out, right? Well, okay, are they lacking connection? Right? I mean, it's either lacking connection with their true self, with what they're doing, with their growth, with their giving, or whatever they're hitting. They're like, crap, I keep working and I'm this isn't working, right? They reach the
Yeah.
fail. It's a breaking point. And so for me, I'd say it comes down to meaningful relationships. And actually, I want to write a book all focused on relationships and every aspect, right? Relationships aren't just intimate, right? You
Right.
can have your relationship with the gym, your relationship with food, your relationship to sleep, your relationship to money, your relationship with a higher power, with God, your relationship to your parents, to nature. I mean, however you want to view it, there's a huge connection. And so that's really what I'm going to be working on is here in the future is a book fully focused on relationships, because I
Well, the
think
thing I love
that's
about that is it goes back to all your basic stuff. I mean, you're saying like, look, you got to actually be aligned with you. And a lot of people make these goals, but it's actually not aligned with you. And that's because they don't have a
boom.
relationship with themselves. And the thing is, as you recognize your relationship with all these other things, you might realize that you have a bigger relationship with video games than the gym. And that doesn't actually meet your goals of what you want to end up like or where you want to be, or maybe it does. But once you recognize all those other relationships, you can tell, am I actually aligned? Without
No,
knowing
that
this, I mean, you're in the dark.
you hit it on the head. Like that's spot on, right? So it comes back to, what is your why? Okay. What is your why in life, right?
Yeah.
Now, and that's what I looked at, and I realized that stuff that I was doing did not support my why. So I've had
Mm.
to change things. And to be real, it's been really hard. I had to have some difficult conversations with some business partners and other people, other people in my life, where I was like, hey, this is where I'm at. And it's been a huge change, but I feel like I'm growing, and it's going to be best for everyone because I'm being honest about it, but I'm also being true to myself, right? Being true to my why. So
Right.
anything that I do in life, if it does not support my why, then why am I doing it, right? Let's say someone's like, oh, I'm doing this business and this is why I'm doing it, but secretly they're just doing it to make all this money. Well, you're going to reach a burnout. If you're doing something purely for money, you're going to reach a burnout, right? Or someone's saying, you have Jesse Itzler. Okay. I love Jesse Itzler. He is incredible. So
So
um,
good.
we're talking with him, and he just goes, do not give, he just goes, do not sacrifice what you have for what you want. Okay. Now, a little bit of backstory to this. So we're talking with him, and people like, oh, cool. Like his wife had sold Spanx for 1.2 billion. Right. And he's just talking about how he wanted to do another business. And he goes, I think this would be worth a lot of money. And his wife goes, yeah, this would be worth billions, but don't do it. Right. And he's
Mm.
like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. She goes, don't do it. It's not worth it. And even though he could go and do that, he recognizes that it does not align with his overall why in life.
Wow.
So why go do it? I mean, he's got a great life, and he's someone that I really respect because
Sure.
of his lifestyle, right? And so he doesn't reach burnout, and that guy goes, oh my gosh, I was tired just watching him, and I feel like I have a lot of energy, and I can, I have people that watch me and like, dude, how do you just keep going? But I was watching Jesse, I'm like, man, this guy, he is the Energizer Bunny that never stops. And it's because he's found his true purpose, his why. And he is
Yeah.
changing lives like nobody's business. And he loves it.
And he's gonna have no regrets. Like he talks about like, hey, look, like if you visit your folks once, twice a year, he's like, how many more years is that? How many? That's 10 more times with mom and dad. And so he's like, he makes the most out of everything.
Yeah, I remember listening to that too. Isn't that the coolest approach of I have 10 more visits with my parents. So I just
Perspective.
hung out with them. Okay, now I have 90% left or 50% left. You know, as he broke down how long are they gonna live?
Oh man. Jesse's anyway. Yeah, he's
I
next level.
He's incredible. So he's someone that I really, I really respect. And there's other people, to be real, that are worth more money than he is,
Yeah.
that I do not take advice from, because my focus is not money. Anything that I just mentioned when it came to my why is money associated with that whatsoever.
So crazy because I don't think anybody who isn't living an abundance mentality, their why pretty much revolves right around that money, and it's to prove something probably to someone who doesn't care at all. It's always, hey, I got to get that car so that I can look successful to the random dude on the street. And it's like, guys, like once you start living that abundance mentality and you start doing gratitude like Dan every morning, every night, you start to realize how much you have, and you start to realize what actually brings that joy into your life. And it's not the money. And your why is almost never really the money. And frankly, if you think, oh, I've got to earn this money to go get my why, which so many people get stumped on, so many people, oh, I can finally do my dream once I've made the money. Get resourceful. I mean, Tony Robbins, go find the money. Like, people have money. All those people who their whole why was to make money, they already went and made it. And now they're sitting there going, I don't really know what to do next. And they're looking for people like you who have a dream, who have something that they're going to give back to the world, and they want to help you with their resources. Like, I mean, align yourself, live in abundance, and go kill it. Stop living this life where you're building years that you're just going to regret. And you're going to think, man, I worked really hard, I got a lot of progress, but you're still going to regret that. And it's like, if you don't have like the courage, like Dan, to actually go have those crucial conversations where you're saying, this isn't easy, but here's where I'm at, because I've actually looked in the mirror, I've actually done some digging, and I found out this is what I want. Guys, that's a hard pivot. Like, that's a hard pivot, but Dan did it, and look where he's at. I mean, it's only been, that wasn't very long ago, right?
No, and I started to see the alignment basically about a month after, and now it's the implementation, right? It's so easy to talk about it like this is what it is, and then it's the actual implementation, right? And the biggest thing, when you only see the highlight reel of other people's lives, right? People that seem to be machines and just keep going, they never stop. Honestly, they probably have balance, and if they don't, then one of two things: either they're in a state of high functioning anxiety or high functioning depression, and they're going to eventually reach a burnout and they're going to crash. And then you have other people that do have balance, you just don't see their balance, right? I mean, now you do have other people where you look at Elon Musk and you're like, where's his balance? Honestly, I don't know, but I mean, the guy just keeps going, so his why is strong enough, right? He doesn't care about money. He's there to change the world. And I love Elon Musk, but there's certain advice I would and wouldn't take from him. And that's because it doesn't support my overall why. And that's where I think it's important to be true to yourself, right? Find a mentor that, this is my approach, that has the lifestyle that you also want to have, right? That has the relationships that you want to have, that has the connections, that, someone that has what you want to have, great. But if someone just has money and you want to be like them, well, sometimes you sacrifice your relationships for money. And that's why I love Jesse, is because he has the right balance. He can go forever. He knows his why, and everything that he does supports his why, and he chooses balance daily. He is there for his son at the baseball games. He is there for his family, for his wife, you name it. He has incredible relationships all around him. And for me, that's what matters most in life, is relationships. It's not the money, it's the relationships and how we grow together as people.
Crazy. So here's a question, because I always get this, because people always say, hey, if you want to have good relationships, like, it shouldn't be somebody that you're going to call up a year later and be like, hey, I'd like to do something with you. Not that I think, honestly, if there's anything wrong with that. If I call you in a year, I know you're going to be chill. Like, I mean, it's, you're a busy guy, and I respect your time, and I don't want to be just calling you, but it's like, for other people, when they want to like maintain a healthy relationship, especially for, maybe personally and business, how do you, I mean, what's the best way that you think people can do that? How do they maintain these because relationships, that's the new currency. I mean, you know, and you don't want to think about it that way, but you want to, you know, it's how we move the world. And so how do you actually maintain those relationships over time and improve them and show them that you're not just there to ask, but also to kind of give?
Okay, so this is something that's really cool. I need to do it again. Maybe we do it together this next month. So this was done like a year and a half ago. I did it. It was November. Okay. So join this mastermind group. And what we did is all these different business owners, right?
Okay.
And each month we'd have these different challenges. And what I loved about this one is the challenge was to send a 30-second to a minute video to someone every single day expressing love to them. Right now, okay, I'm like, okay, how to express love? Well, gratitude is an easy way to express love, right? And so you can go through your family members and you get through really quick, right? And you go kind of your friends. And it was so humbling. So the entire month, that's what I did. I kind of wrote out a list, pre-gamed it, who I was going to send stuff to, right? And I'd split up. So it was family members, different times here and there, friends and other people. And other people I hadn't talked with in a bit, but it was just a short 30-second to a minute video. Just, hey man, thinking about you. I've been doing some of them I told them about the challenge. Other just said, hey, I've been thinking about you. Just want to tell you how grateful I am to have you as a friend. You know, I'm so grateful for where you show up in my life here and there, you know, how you've been there for me at this point in my life. And hey, let's catch up. I'd love to see you, know how you're doing. And that's a simple way to keep a connection, right?
Love
or
it.
you can send a text message, but that was my favorite, right? It's a short 30-second to a minute video. Other thing for me, I love a short phone call,
Nice.
FaceTime, but I think the simplest is just a short little 30-second to a minute video. You maintain that relationship.
Was that mastermind with Jesse Itzler?
No, it was not. We actually did that with Sam Taggart is what we did. So that was with Sam and then tons of other people. And so it was fun. I enjoyed that, you know, doing the different challenges. And I think he got that from a mastermind that he had been doing, you know, that he had joined. And what I mean doesn't take away from it. He executed, right?
No,
and that's where I give him mad props. And that's the biggest thing is a lot of these things, it's not like someone just came up with them, right? Someone else did. I mean, they're repeated, recycled things. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, everyone talks about, you know, gratitude, you know, it's the attitude of gratitude. It's not a new concept. And there's a reason it's not a new concept. These are truths, right? I call them eternal truths that you can apply in every aspect of life. Cool. If you want to be happy, give, express gratitude, grow, and maintain a remembrance of God, source in your life. And you're going to be able to grow and you will avoid that burnout.
I love it. I have another question I kind of want to ask you really quick because we're kind of wrapping up here.
Oh, you're good.
I want to know, because for instance, this whole kind of idea of recovery kind of came from my brother talking about how he was doing video games and how, you know, he'd play one, then he'd keep playing them and he never felt like getting back to work. And so I was like, well, it's false recovery. Do you have some sort of false recovery that you used to subscribe to or something that, you know, that you always are like, oh, this will make me feel better, but then it just kind of drains you more? Or maybe what's a common one that you see that people can?
Okay, absolutely. So here it was, I'm surprised I didn't even say this when we first started talking. I don't think that people burn out from doing too much. I think that they burn out from doing too little of what they actually love.
Nice.
Right. And so people are doing all this stuff. No, you can go a million miles an hour and do a ton of stuff and never reach burnout because you're doing things that you love. Right. When you see I've reached burnout, it's because I didn't continue to do the things that I loved. Right. I would come home, I'd work 8 to 10 hours a day and literally sit there and scroll on social media. Right. That was like such a waste of time. Right. I used to remember in college, right? I would binge Netflix like crazy. And so then I came up with a rule for myself. I will not watch a video or TV show unless it is with someone else. Then I replaced Netflix with books, and I read so many books, right? So when I look at currently, I'm doing pretty good, honestly, right now. But in the past, absolutely. I mean, anyone's typical. Cool. Social media, I scroll, right? And that's when it comes to, it's all pretense with no substance, right?
Totally.
That, I mean, or do you want to go and just all you eat is, how do you put it? Like you're just filling yourself with hay, right? It's empty, right? Hey, but you want to have substance. You need to have your protein, right? You need to have, different carbs, but you don't want to just eat bread. If all you do is eat bread all day, every day, like,
yeah, you filled your day, but
I mean, and you ate all your calories, took that intake, but you need to make sure you have the right breakdown of everything. And so that's really how I view it. It's okay, how are you doing it? And we didn't even get into, I had some major crap go down in my life 5 years ago. And that's when we found out about my sister. So, I mean, get this. Okay. So 5 years ago, this is where I should have reached burnout, but I didn't because of a few things. I reached a breaking point. So 5 years ago, our business was, we thought we were gonna have to sell it. Some crap was going on. I just called off my wedding that was 6 days away.
oh my gosh.
Couple weeks later, my mom got a stroke, and then right around that time, my sister was diagnosed with terminal cancer. I was a mess, emotional mess.
Whoa.
Right?
I'm like trying to process all of that.
I was
Wedding, mom, sister, and the business, everything that you've been working towards or has brought stability to your life or anything is up in the air.
Everything, right? Everything. I was a wreck.
Oh,
now,
goodness.
Part of this stuff is now 5 years later, I have the tools. I do lots of meditation, and that's helped me to have the tools to now address the things that took place 5 years ago that I didn't have the tools for. Now, 5 years ago when that took place, luckily, I had a really strong relationship with my family. Okay. Literally my parents, my mom and my dad are my best friends. Like,
cool.
That go over, visit them 2-3 times a week and just hang out, just them and me. And I love it. Right. And I was consistent at working out. I would go to the gym, 5-6 times a day. And at that point where I kind of reached my breaking point, I started to do things that I had missed. Right now, at that point too, we'd been living off of savings for 3 years. We didn't take a penny out of the business, and we finally started to get a little bit. Okay.
Wow.
That's when I moved in, kind of with Roger, different stuff. And then I made sure I was going to the gym consistently, which I already was. So I already had that healthy habit. Right. And if I didn't have those healthy habits and those healthy escapes, I would have been in trouble. I would go snowboarding a few times a week, just go for a few hours, right?
Sweet.
I'd go rock climb.
Something.
Yeah. Rock climb, spend time with friends. And once I implemented, that was around the time that I started reading books. And then that's when I started to feel, back into me. But if I had not been exercising, eating well, spending time with family, and once again, at that time, I felt a very close connection to God, right? I firmly believe, that God kind of, had sent his guardian angels and, people to look after me. And that was a time that especially that I felt a lot of prayers were being, offered on my behalf. And so that once again, right there, right, had God. And that was a huge focus for me. Exercise, which is growth, right? Gratitude. To be real, I woke up every day and I was just grateful for what I have, because I realized my mom, I was just grateful to spend whatever time I could, because that scared me. She got that stroke, and then I really valued the time that I had with my sister. We have another friend that he passed away, same colon cancer. He passed away within 2 months, other people within a couple weeks. And so every time I got to spend with my sister, I viewed that as just another blessing, as another chance and opportunity more than I would ever have. I tried to approach each time spending with her as if it might possibly be the last, right? And so I was doing all of those G's except for kind of giving. I was growing, I was close to God. I was living in a lot of gratitude for the opportunities that I had to spend with family. And, I didn't really give back too much. And then I started to work on that, go to different soup kitchens. And as I did that, then I was in a happier place. So that's really where I think break down the chemicals. What is it that you're struggling? And there's so many more chemicals. The incredible book. Have you read Leaders Eat Last?
No, it's on the list though. Everybody keeps telling me to read it.
Such a good book. I love it. They break down the chemicals once again in there. And it's so cool to see each of these things. If you want to understand the laws of nature, you want to bend the real into the ideal, you have to understand nature so well, our human nature, our chemical makeup, in order to, know what to fix. If not, we're just shooting blind in the dark.
Guys, it's life changing. I mean, the fact that Dan's saying this is like, hear that point. Like, I mean, the thing is, as soon as you know yourself and you know how to realign, like, it means you actually know yourself, meaning physically, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. I mean, do some self-discovery here, do some meditations, get to know yourself, look at your goals, look at your patterns, ask your friends. I mean, if you want to get to know your brand, like as a person, text your whole family and your 10 closest friends and have them each send you 3 characteristics that they think sum up you. And you're going to get a cool perspective about who you are as a person. And then, I mean, check out your goals. Check out, hey, where am I lacking? Guys, if you're depressed right now, and I bet half of you are, I mean, you'd probably classify yourself as depressed. Let's be real. Recognize that when you actually learn to meditate and you actually learn about yourself, you're pulling yourself away from yourself and looking at yourself a little bit better. And you're looking and going, oh, I feel really bad right now. And you're like, oh, it's chemicals. Like, I mean, it's my body. I'm feeling it. Have I slept enough? Did I eat something? Did I work out today? I mean, get back to your basics. I mean, Dan's giving you so much good stuff today. That's just like, it's doable. It's not easy, maybe at the beginning for everyone, but it is doable. And it's like, take the baby steps, do a little bit every day, get to know yourself better every day, get to learn a little bit more about yourself every day, pick up a book. I'm willing to bet a lot of money that as soon as Dan started reading tons of books, his money just went like that. As soon as I started reading a book a week, my money just went like that. Like, I mean, it's kind of like a law of nature. But Dan, I want to ask you one last question before we get out of here. Because everybody's always learning some lesson right now in their life, something hard, or maybe they're just noticing it more in other people's lives or something. What's a big lesson that you're learning right now that you think might, that people might need to hear?
That's a good question. I feel like it's kind of what we've been talking about.
Totally.
Is really what I've been learning, which is just I'm big on the law of attraction and the aspect of being true to yourself, right? And I feel like we aren't attracting just random things. We're actually trying to attract back into existence our true self of who we are. That's actually who we're attracting, right? I mean,
wow.
Like attracts like, right? Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just, wow. I mean, I think I feel like people are always like, oh, I feel like I should be somewhere else. And it's like, that's the real you you're trying to connect with here. Like, you can feel that, like, go to it. Like,
yeah.
So, I mean,
you attract what you are, not what you want to be. Right. And so I'm a firm believer of be it until you become it. I hate the concept of fake it till you make it. It's be it until you become it. Another phenomenal book is The Alchemist. Okay.
Nice.
I don't know if you've read The Alchemist. Incredible book. For me, it resonates with me. I grew up in the Middle East as a kid in Jerusalem. And so I'd speak a little bit of Arabic, and they have a lot of Arabic throughout the book. And so for me, it spoke to my soul, where I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is calling me back to kind of like my true self of who I am. And that's what I think it is. It's, when you're with friends, when you're with other people, if you feel off, because you're not being your true self, right?
Right.
If you're not your true authentic self, right? And that comes from being present and then focusing on who am I, right? And they're the cheesiest concepts. They're not new, but they're simple and they're real. And I think that's the biggest thing is cool, just be you, like I'm focusing on attracting my truest version of me. My true version of me already exists. I just need to find that back into existence and become that once again.
Realign. Yeah. That's crazy. Dan, I always ask everybody at the end of the podcast, I'm like, hey, what's your message to the world? Would you say that's like, if everybody in the world was going to hear this podcast, like, what's your message for them? Is that it? Or is it something else?
My message to the world would be, I think so. I mean, for me, everything that I focus on is truth, right? That's like everything that I do. I even have a ring that says choose truth, right? And I think it is be true to yourself, right? If you're being true to yourself, then you are present in the here and now, right? Most people, if they live in the past, they're living with depression, right? They're living in the future, they have massive anxiety. And if you are living in the present, okay, you live in the here and now, then you can be, right? Whereas your head is somewhere else. And I would say that, yeah, like be true to yourself, know who you are, and focus on becoming your truest version of who you are, connecting with God. And I think that's what it is, right? That's the alignment of align with your true self. And I think that is done as we also connect with God.
Totally. Guys, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we got Dan on here. Dan's just like the man. Guys, you heard it here. If there's any kind of links to, Dan, where can they find you, or are you just too busy right now, man?
Honestly, I don't have anything up. I need to work on doing that stuff. To be real, I usually slide under the radar. Most of my friends don't know a lot of stuff that I do. And that was mostly because I didn't like the people that were faking it till they made it. And so I didn't want to be like, oh, look at this. But from here on out, I mean, my next goals is I want to turn 20 guys into millionaires, right? I have 2 guys that I'm mentoring right now. And my goal is to, grow businesses, help them, teach them how to do it. And then I do have a book I want to do. And now I feel like I actually have a message I can share, right? And I feel like I'm being authentic. And so that's really the next step is, okay, cool. How can I have a big impact on the world? Whereas if you'd asked me 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, cool, I own this pest control company. Now, if you ask me, I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm working on these franchises. I'm mentoring these guys. I've been doing these investments, launched a hedge fund here. I've, owned and been running a business for 8 years. I feel a lot more confident that I can step in and provide value. Whereas before, I feel like I would have been a fraud. Yeah. Now, I still could have provided value, but I feel like it would have been more of a fraud. And for me, it's so important that I'm real about my failures, my successes, my challenges, my weaknesses, because when we're real, that's how we actually grow. You have to give, right, empathy in order to receive empathy. If I'm vulnerable, now it's okay for you to be vulnerable. And that's really, in vulnerability, there's loads of strength.
Well, and we could do a whole podcast on that, but
yeah.
I mean, that's some serious, guys. That gets a lot deeper. Guys, if in the future Dan has any like a website or anything, we're gonna have the links right below the video, so you can go check him out. Dan,
you can check me out on Instagram. It's the Danstagram, but I don't really post, and it's just kind of all you see is me playing and enjoying life. You'd have no idea about this other side of me.
The Danstagram. Okay, that's below. Guys, go check it out. Check out Dan. Dan, thanks so much for your time, man.
Hey, thanks, Mikey. Appreciate it.